not a week, indeed, at times not a day goes by without coming across my desk someone heralding the imminent demise of Jeet Kune, and seldom do they actually lament the impending loss of the art. So today we'll take a look at how understanding what brought you to this point in your Jeet Kune life, how that can be a source of inspiration, possibly, giving you the courage to carry on doing your part to ensure the continued existence of this martial work of art. Hello, everyone. This is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Rebel, and welcome to the I Love Jeet Kune broadcast number 115. This is the one about you and your JKD origin story. So as you're logging in, if you would be kind enough to say where you're logging in from and hit the like button and continue to do so throughout the broadcasts. Let me just check and see who's here. Russell Dulé, Rick Brocher, Terry Valor, Mark Stewart. All right, cool. All right, the regulars. All right, the other thing is, over on the YouTube, please be sure to hit subscribe. I'm trying to break that 1,000 subscriber mark over on the YouTube. So we're at like 700 for the I Love for the Jeet Kune dialogues, and then the I Love Jeet Kune broadcast is woefully behind. I think it's only like maybe 200 or so. So we really have to build the numbers over on the YouTube. Also, if you enjoy the work that we're doing here and you'd like to support the program, visit jkdrebel.com/store and check out our offerings. But of course, the best thing you can do is to just tell the whole world about the broadcast and the dialogues, share the video, spread the word, and so on and so forth. All right, so it's been said that every life has a story and every story has a message. So imagine if all of us in JKD were to take this really to heart, right? Do you think that all of the petty schisms about lineage and legitimacy and all that stuff, do you think that all that stuff could come to an end? Now, did you notice the graphic images that I used? Well, maybe you guys saw it, right? Did you notice the graphic images that I used for today's, for the postcard, right? And they were all from comic books, because that's all I could find when I looked for images about origin story. So in other words, they all come from works of fiction, right? Now, that's not what I want to talk about today at all, works of fiction or fictitious ideas or anything like that. What I want to talk about is something that exists right here in the real world. You know, a lot of people in JKD believe that it is simply a physical method of training. But as I have always told you, that's not at all my approach. I believe and will always believe that Jeet Kune is both a physical art and a philosophy, which of course means that this is a thing which ultimately can affect the way you think, the way you behave, the way you carry yourself in the world. So this is somewhat of an aside, but it's relevant. Yesterday, I went with Glenn to get coffee at the Colombian food shop that's in the shopping center where our gym is. And while I was in there, this was my first time inside the Colombian shop. So I noticed that they have this chocolate drink called Milo on their shelves. Now, I grew up in Barbados, which is a former British colony. So of course we had Milo as well, because it is an Australian invention. So you would find it in the Commonwealth countries. I was not aware that Colombia was part of the British Commonwealth, right? It's not, okay? But it dawned on me that what I was doing, I was standing in nothing other than the Colombian food shop version of the Jamaican food shop, which I frequent. And here in Miami, we have the Peruvian food shop. I think Kevin, I saw my old student, Kevin Porter, is on here. So Kevin knows we at the big school, we used to have a Peruvian food shop right next door, right? So we have the Peruvian food shop here in Miami. We got the Venezuelan food shop. We got the Brazilian food shop. We got the Haitian food shop, and so on and so on. right? So you see where I'm going with this? We all have Jeet Kune, whether we got it from Seattle, or we got it from Oakland, or we got it from Los Angeles, whether we got it from Bruce Lee himself. Obviously, I don't mean we as in me, right? Or we got Jeet Kune from one of Bruce Lee's lieutenants, or we got it from a lieutenant of one of Bruce Lee's lieutenants, right? And so on and so on. But some people seem to have this burning desire to be right, you know, to be the one who has the secrets or has the right version of Jeet Kune or the truth or whatever, you know, the real Jeet Kune, right? So now think about the origin stories of all of the characters in the JKD world from the different generations, right? So let me show you what I'm talking about. So let's do this one. Okay. So think about the origin stories for people like that, right? Now think about the origin story for people. Wait, I think I missed one here. Yeah, I'm messing it up already. I'm sorry, guys. I'm trying to be cool, right? Okay, what about this one? Okay, I missed one completely. Anyhow, you get my point, right? I hope. So imagine the origin stories for those guys. Now imagine, as a matter of fact, let me see. Yeah, so the Jesse Glover story, the Taki Kimura story, the James DeMille story, the James Lee story, the Barney Scollin story, the Alan Joe story, the Dan Inosanto story, the Jerry Poteet story, the Daniel Lee story, the Bob Bremer story, the Pete Jacobs story, the Richard Bustillo story, the Larry Hartzell story, the Ted Wong story, and on and on and on. The Tim Tackett story, the Chris Kent story, the Jeff Imada story, the Cass Magda story, the Paul Vunak story, the Burt Richardson story, and on and on and on. You see? And how many people did I just leave out? If I call all the names, we'll be here all night. So I can't do that, right? But can you see now how everyone's origin story becomes important because there could be a message in it. Now, here's the thing about the messages. If you know who you are, then you'll hear the messages with which you resonate. In fact, I believe that even if you don't know who you are, but you are at least searching, then the chances of hearing a resonant message are improved. But you got to be searching. You can't be sitting back thinking, I've done enough searching, I've found it all, and I know it all. Okay? So a little bit about origin stories. So here's the thing. They have to be true, right? we have probably all come across someone with an obviously untrue origin story, right? You know, they wanted to spin tales about, you know, they trained with Bruce Lee in the Philippines or something, right? But sometimes we come across someone with an origin story, and then later on we discover that it was all lies. And somehow, you know, rightfully so, I think, in certain circumstances, the image that you have of that person is not able to be repaired, right? These are the kinds of people that you want to run as fast and as far as possible away from, right? So as I was putting the final touches on this, I had this idea that with you guys here, I would do this little I'll do this little thing, right? So I think I think I can pull this off. All right, so I'll tell you the origin story, and then as fast as you can, you type it into the comments, and I should be able to keep an eye on the comments. All right, so here's the origin. Now remember, I did this literally like 3 minutes. Well, now we've been on for 9 minutes, so I did this literally 12 minutes ago. All right, so he and Bruce Lee were schoolmates at Edison Technical, and he became Bruce Lee's first Seattle student. All right, I can only give you like a couple of seconds to type this in, right? And then I got to move on. No, nobody's even listening to what I'm saying. All right, so I'm moving on. Now this one's a little bit more elusive. So his good friend his good friend's brother had taken dancing lessons from Bruce Lee in San Francisco. And then it was suggested that when he went up to Seattle for the World Fair, that he should check out Bruce Lee in Seattle. All right, so Richard Torres and Tusi Fusi's got that, right? That first one. But what's the second one? Right? His good friend's brother had taken dancing lessons from Bruce Lee in San Francisco. But then they said, okay, when you go up to Seattle for the World's Fair, check out this guy, Bruce Lee, and come back and tell us if he's any good. Okay, right? So Richard Torres and I will have to have a discussion about this, because my understanding is that it was, okay, Richard, you'll have to tell me, was it Alan Joe who went up to Seattle, or was it okay, so right, okay, right, see, Richard, that's my boy, he's always on the money. All right, and then this is the easiest one, especially since it's me doing the broadcast. As a top black belt student of Ed Parker's, right, he was assigned, let's call it chaperone duties for Bruce Lee at the 1964 Los Angeles, the Long Beach Internationals. Right, okay, so yeah, so that one takes everybody a long time to pick up. Okay, I'm just kidding, right? Okay, so this is the thing, right? If this is the first time that you've heard anything about origin stories, or and you've never thought of like the importance of your own origin story, and if you need some help in constructing that or whatever, just send me an email, jkdrebel@gmail.com, and I'll send you some information on how to craft a decent origin story. Right? Okay. All right. So that's it for today. So feel free, like I asked you before, share Elvis Presley. Peter, that's hilarious. Right? Okay. So feel free, share, like, comment, ask questions if you want. I'll review everything after posting. Follow me on Twitter at Dwight Woods and on Instagram at Dwight D. Woods. ilovejeetkundo.com. Quick Skills Series Volume 1 is available. Volume 2 will be produced in 2020. Coming up on Friday, February 21st, Jeet Kune Dialogues with bubbly Bob Breen of 4D combat fame, the granddaddy of British JKD. That's Friday the 21st, but it'll be at 1 p.m. instead of our usual 6 p.m. Today is an Indigo Day. There you go. Right? And next Wednesday for the I Love Jeet Kune broadcast, it will be at 6 p.m., but we're going to try a little experiment, and we're going to go live on the YouTube instead of live on Facebook, right? But just as an experiment to see how that works. So I'll keep you updated about that, right? Okay, so that's it. This is Dwight Woods, the Jeet Kune Rebel, signing off. You guys enjoy the rest of your day. Take care now. See you soon.
Okay, my name is Dan Asano. I'm from Los Angeles, California. I believe it's August the 1st in 1964. I was under Ed Parker at that time, and I was told to take care of Bruce Lee when he was in Long Beach, California. I was the elimination tournament. I set up the tournament. That was the first international karate championships they had. And my job was to make sure that Bruce Lee ate, and to drive him around and for sightseeing around the Long Beach area, and just show him the Long Beach area, Los Angeles area. And that's what I did with Bruce Lee at that time. His demonstration was, he showed various different things. He showed what his best demonstration was in front of the black belts, in my opinion. And then he gave one in front of the whole crowd in 1964, demonstrating what was traditional Chinese Kung Fu and what his system was at that particular time period. Jung Rhee was probably one of the best instructors at that time in the United States in Taekwondo. and exceptionally good kicker. And my thing of Bruce Lee was that he was very all around, kicking, punching, striking. In the clinching game or in the trapping game, he was superb. He, at that time, was living in Seattle, and then he was going to move in with James Lee. But before he did that, he stayed about, it seemed like 3 weeks, doing demonstrations at the Sing Lee Theater in Chinatown. And he needed a fall guy to do this. And so I wanted to learn from him. I told him I was very impressed in what he was teaching. And he phoned me up and he says, well, would you dummy for me at these demonstrations at the Sing Lee Theater? So about 3 weeks, he taught me, and I became his dummy for a demonstration at the Sing Lee Theater in Los Angeles, Chinatown.
When did you first meet Bruce? I mean, what was that?
I met him in the first International, '64. And I was Ed Parker's elimination tournament. Mm-hmm. That was really a headache. I remember that tournament too because I lost to Chuck Sullivan, which I normally don't lose to Chuck. Although he's my instructor.
Oh, yeah? Wasn't Chuck Ed's first black belt?
Yes. And it was so funny because I was so worried, but he talked to me after that match, and he told me that he says that for that type of game, he says they cannot. If you're really scoring like the jab, like the backhand, it would be good. But for that, he says it's not really good because they're counting the reapers. But that's the thing that happened with Sterling Peacock. You know, he's a California champion, Golden Glove, see. And I remember he was crying almost literally because they weren't counting his punch. Because he'd go like this, and he's a boxer, so he'd go like this, and there wouldn't be any flags, and he got more frustrated as the match went on. Because at that time, if you had a Japanese judge, they wanted you to lock the punch out. So you didn't get any point. So it was a way to cheat on it. You know, some guy used to go like this, well, and then just rush into the body like that. There's all kind of little games that you can play. So I remember Sterling Peacock, he was California's, Golden Glove champion, light heavyweight. But he couldn't score because he kept on winging that cross in, but there was no flag. And he would look over at the judges, because there wasn't any contact. That's interesting. Which is the same. I think it was kind of funny when that Charlie fought guy into the tournament. See, they're not going to count any of that stuff, no matter how close you get. See that, and that was the judging, because I think in those days you had to know what the judge wanted. You look over there to see if the judge is Korean. You look over the judge is Japanese. You kind of know. You'd have to know, kind of play the game. But in that time period, I think Mike Stone was Joe. I think you guys pretty much dominated the area at that time.
And Stone was slaughtering guys, blooding them up. I would just break the ribs,